Hi, I'm Sofia Fonseca, and this is the ONLA podcast, a podcast on African archaeology and heritage. In our first episodes, we'll be interviewing the teachers for our online course on African archaeology and heritage that will be held at the Coursera platform at the beginning of 2021. We count on you to join the course. For now, listen to the teachers and enjoy. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have with us João Cascalheira. João is a Portuguese archaeologist from the ICArEHB Research Center at Algarve University in Portugal, where he is leading the group of human evolution and African archaeology. He is specialized in prehistory and lithic technology, and his work has been developed in Western Europe and South Africa on prehistoric hunter-gatherer adaptation related with processes of climate and environmental change. João is also interested in quantitative applications in archaeology and has himself created two new apps to use on the field, specially designed to remote regions, called Archeo Survey and Lithics On The Go, which he presents in our MOOC on African Archaeology and Heritage. He is also the teacher of our lesson on archaeological survey. Hi, João. It's wonderful to have you here, and I would like you to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you decide to become an archaeologist?
Hi, Sophia. Well, first of all, thank you a lot for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be part of this podcast, which is a wonderful initiative. So about me, I'm not one of those cases that wanted to be an archaeologist from the beginning, like from a very young child. I think everything happened by chance. When I finished my high school, I wanted to be a musician, and I thought of applying to a music school. But for several circumstances of life, I ended up applying for the university here in Algarve, where I'm still doing my research. And I end up doing my undergrad on cultural heritage. And during those years, I had contact with prehistory. We had at least one course in prehistory, and that was the turning point. That was the moment when I realized that I really like prehistory and that I wanted to be an archaeologist and that I wanted to study prehistory.
So interesting. Now I understand where your creativity applied to archaeology comes from.
Maybe.
It's all that part that you have inside of you. So you decided to study archaeology and you entered directly for prehistory because that's your specialization.
Yes, so I did my undergrad, and we have a final paper for the undergrad, and that was already on prehistory. So I studied some materials from a very important site here in Portugal, the site of Valboi, which is an Upper Paleolithic site, and I really enjoyed it. And at that time, I started working with my supervisor for the undergrad, for the master, and for the PhD, which is Nuno Bicho. And after finishing my undergrad, I applied for the master's. I got a grant to work within a project about the Muj shell middens, the Mesolithic Muj shell middens. And I did my master's, and then applied for my PhD. Got a grant from our National Science Foundation. And the PhD was about the Solutrian in the Iberian Peninsula. And only during my postdoc here at the University of Algarve, I started working in Africa and start my interest in Africa. Now I am a researcher at ICArEHB, at our research center here. And I'm also a coordinator of one of the research lines in the center, which is the Human Evolution in African Archaeology research line.
And how did ICArEHB started this line of research in Africa and the projects you have now there?
So ICArEHB is a research center focused on human evolution and the evolution of the human behavior. And Actually, before the formation of the research center, we had funding for a project in Mozambique. I think this project was the first step for having a research line in African archaeology in our research center at ICArEHB. This project was targeting the southern part of Mozambique. We were surveying and excavating Middle Stone Age sites and later Stone Age sites in that region. And we started the project and soon realized that there was a lot to do in the country, in Mozambique, and a lot still to understand about the prehistory in that region. And I think that was the first step for the creation of an African archaeology research group at ICArEHB. Nowadays, we have other projects, of course, occurring in Africa. And we have several researchers associated with projects working in South Africa, in Eastern Africa, and several different regions in the continent. Right now, we also have, for example, a Marie Curie researcher, which is Emily Allinen, who's working, she's under my supervision. She's working in South Africa, working with lithic materials that attest the presence of the so-called Nubian technology in that region. So we are trying to develop even more our African archaeology side of the research center. And this is why we recently opened a senior position for 6 years, a 6-year contract for a senior researcher in African archaeology.
Oh, that can really be a turning point, no, for bring someone working specifically in that area and creating new projects, I suppose, opening new doors in the African archaeology.
Exactly. That is the goal of this new position. We thought that we might need someone with a more experience in Africa and archaeology that can bring more students, create a more dynamic flow of research in that group. And of course, ICArEHB, at least in Portugal, is pretty much the only research center that's focused in archaeology, of course, that focused on Africa, or that has a research line on African archaeology. And we are trying to consolidate that research line by hiring more people, by trying to bring more students from Africa to do their PhDs here. For example, we had a call open early this year, for 4 PhD positions, and we were able to get at least one person from Ethiopia, which will do the PhD here with us, which is for us it's really important also to participate in this formation, in this education of African students.
Yes, those are great news. So we'll have a colleague from Ethiopia at ICArEHB. That's amazing.
Exactly.
Great news.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to hear that, because as we are trying to do with the MOOC, also create new opportunities for students from around the world, but obviously from Africa also to get into archaeology and heritage. So if that link can be even stronger and bring them, create all these connections, that's a goal, a beautiful goal. And João, another very interesting thing, that because you are one of the teachers of the MOOC, you explain us and you bring to us in the methodology module some apps that you have created for the fieldwork, and everything started in the fieldwork in Africa. Can you explain us how that happened and why? What apps are those and how they work and how this all came to to life?
Yeah. So basically, it was in the same project that I was telling you about, the first project for Mozambique that we had. One of our goals was to find new sites in Mozambique. And during our first year, we realized that we needed a systematic way to collect data from those surveys. And we weren't able, for example, to have our computers with us because we were working in really remote places. And we wanted something that was portable, and that we didn't have to rely on papers. So I searched online for several different options, And there were already several different options for using smartphones during fieldwork, but none of the options considered very specific things that we had in mind. For example, collaboration between survey teams, direct uploading to the internet of our results, several things in several fields that were not as good as we wanted. So while I was searching for these platforms, so we can use on the survey in the field, I found a really interesting tool which is still online. Originally, it was from Google, but now it's under the control of the MIT in the United States, which is called App Inventor. And pretty much App Inventor is a tool, an online tool that lets everyone without any previous knowledge in programming software to build their own apps. They're actually using this in schools with really young children to teach them how to do simple apps. And so I found that, and I said, well, maybe let's try to build something with this. And it ended up in the construction of two different applications. These are only Android applications, so it's pretty much based on the Google system. And the first step that we built was the Archeo Survey. And Archeo Survey is pretty much a substitution for the traditional paper forms during survey that people use during survey. So we can record our coordinates using the GPS of our smartphone. We can record the type of sites, several information about the locations that we find. And then we realized that most of those sites, most of the surface finds that we were gathering, we were carrying a lot of rocks with us. And this carries two problems. One, it's a lot of weight, mostly because we are working in remote areas, so we had to bring those in our backpacks. And pretty much because we were removing the artifacts from their context. So we thought about creating a different app, which we end up calling Lithics On The Go, which pretty much use the same system, the App Inventor, and with the calipers connected directly to our smartphone or a tablet, we can collect information on site about the lithics, about the lithic scatters that we find. And so these are the two apps that work together. There is a connection between the two apps, and they are freely available for everyone. Not only the apps as they are, but also the configuration files that you can change. And it's really easy to change. You just need some time and some patience, of course. But you can change the configurations and adapt those apps to your own work in other countries or in other contexts.
That's really interesting, and you are right for remote places, or so it's really handy to have something that you can just carry on. And also, I believe for working in the desert, for instance, that if you collect things, they are completely out of context from there. So it's really interesting, I believe, and we have to spread the word about the apps.
Mm-hmm.
And João, another thing, so we started the MOOC and the project, and you and Nuno and ICArEHB were supporting since the beginning. And I would like to know your personal perspective regarding this project. What made you collaborate immediately and be here with us as a teacher and as a colleague?
Well, I think this is probably one of the most interesting projects occurring with within ICArEHB, or with the help of ICArEHB, with the collaboration of ICArEHB. And it's really interesting, and it's really valuable because we always, at ICArEHB, at least during the last couple of years, we always been thinking of ways of bringing students to us. But this project does the opposite. It's bringing us to the students,
Yes.
and this is very clever on the first hand, and I think it will reach more students than bringing students to do the masters or the PhD here, or in this case the masters. And it also is an opportunity for all the institutions that are collaborating with this project, for connecting with students. And maybe the students can do their masters, their online masters, with this platform, with this course, and then get opportunities for the students so they can continue their research and do their PhDs in other institutions, either in Europe, in the United States, whatever they want. This is why I believe this is a really important project, and being online, it will reach, hopefully, students that don't have opportunity to leave their countries to continue their education, which is really important. Another thing that I think it's really important about the project is that because it gathers so many people, different institutions, it will give the students a very broad context, a very broad history about African archaeology, about methods in the field, in the lab, and things like that. So basically, these are the two reasons why I think the project is really interesting and why I'm really excited to be part of it.
And hopefully in the future, we'll increase the number of institutions and collaborations and even case studies in other countries that we are starting with Mozambique and Namibia. But hopefully in the following years, we'll have other countries and other case studies so the students can also know other records, other methodologies that are applied in different fields, of course, in different areas of the continent. And regarding the future, João, do you have projects that you are dreaming about or you would like to work in?
Oh yeah, for sure. So right now we are kind of starting a new project in Africa, in Sudan, in collaboration with other institutions, of course. We already did a couple of field seasons there, just to check the context, just to see what we can do with that. We have submitted funding proposals that we are waiting for the results, of course. But basically, we are trying to understand the Middle Stone Age of Sudan. Our goal is basically the same as in Mozambique: find new sites, excavate sites, try to date them. And this is probably one of the most exciting projects that we are preparing right now. Of course, that as I mentioned before, I'm working also with Emily Allinen on the South African Nubian materials. This is also a really interesting project to me. It's capturing attention from several researchers now. And so hopefully in the next couple of years, we will have some really nice results about it also. In Mozambique, we have at ICArEHB, I am involved in a project led by Ana Gomes, which is a geologist of our center, and she is gathering information about paleoclimate from Mozambique. She has really interesting results. Probably she's going to publish that, or we are going to publish that until the end of this year. And it's basically the first project dedicated to that in Mozambique. We also have a different project in Mozambique that already saw some publications, which is led by Susana Carvalho from the University of Oxford. She's a researcher, also associated researcher with ICArEHB. And she's working in Gorongosa, the national park in Mozambique. They also have really interesting results. And I'm also excited to know more about this project in the future.
Sounds fascinating. Me too. I want to know about all these projects in the future, and I'm sure all the students of the MOOC will enjoy to learn with you and with your colleagues. And thank you so much, João, for being here today with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for joining the conversation with João Cascalheira from the ICArEHB Research Center at Algarve University in Portugal. João is one of our teachers on the MOOC on African Archaeology and Heritage, and after knowing that he was thinking of following a path on music before he decided to study archaeology, made me better understand his creativity and interest in creating himself the solutions for the problems he faces in the field. I believe that's his artistic soul. The work João and his group are developing in Mozambique, Sudan, and other parts of Africa, together with the newly opened position to senior research in African archaeology on the University of the Algarve, opens a new period to African archaeology, not only at Algarve University, but in Portugal. Thank you, João, and the ICArEHB for that. On the next few weeks, we'll keep on having conversations with our teachers around the course and their personal projects. Subscribe to the podcast and our newsletter, and let's be friends on Facebook and Instagram. Take care and keep safe. I will talk to you soon.